So welcome, everybody. We are here during Seattle Tech Week for Showroom. Showroom is a show that we talk about commerce, retail, brand, and we invite folks who are in that community working on different things. For this discussion, we actually have a couple of founders, not the same company, different company, but founders working on some interesting technology in the commerce sector. I've gotten to know both of them, just through events and through the years. And so with that, I'd love to first let Michael introduce himself. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about your background, and then we'll let John go, and then we'll talk about what your company does.
Sure. Hi, I'm Michael. I'm founder and CEO of Curie. Curie makes 3D shapes of products so that people can increase their sales conversion rate.
Perfect. Thank you. And can everybody hear Michael? Okay, cool. So we'll yell. We'll start yelling. Okay, go ahead, John.
Okay. My name is John. I'm one of the co-founder and CTO at Pipe17. We provide distributed order management to power brands and logistic companies. For the brands, it's really, hey, you have an order, how do you route it? How do you handle inventory? How do you handle transfer orders, ERP connectivity, etc.? And for the logistics side, how do they provide connectivity to their customers? So that's what we do. We power quite a few brands, Allbirds, Olokai, Mirror's Organic, and the logistics side, we partner with some of the largest logistics systems in the world.
Yeah. Awesome. So, we're talking, brand merchandising here in a way on different sides of it, and, the shipping, how you're it's displayed. So, Michael, why don't you just give us a little bit more about how your company works?
Sure. So we work kind of like OpenAI or Veo. We're able to index large amounts of photos. So as a species, we take about 2 trillion photos every single year. For one particular product, there might see 10 million photos of that particular style. And so that allows us to create the most accurate 3D representation of that product using generative AI. And we also mitigate against leapfrogging models. And so every single week, there's going to be a new model that's coming out. And so we work sort of like Perplexity. If there's ever a better model that's out there for particular types of materials like glass and fur, we're able to merge it into one single shape that takes the closest that the mesh is to the photos. And then that at any time we're able to serve the most realistic 3D representation of that product at any given time.
Yeah, why don't you expand on that too? Like, walk us through what's the consumer seeing on that? So they see this 3D image. Where are they seeing that?
Yeah, so if you guys want to see a demo, you can all pull out your phones and go to curie.shop. And then you can use your finger to rotate the models. So what was your question again?
So what's happening? But assuming people don't have the ability to pull out their phone, what happens? You go to Curie.shop, and from there you can see the image. What are you seeing? So if I'm a customer, if I'm a brand, if I'm a consumer, how am I getting these products served to me?
Yeah, so I guess a good way to kind of think about it is, we're all familiar with catalogs, Sears Roebuck from the 150 years ago. We used to send it out to, Seattle, so people can make decisions remotely about products. And now we have, physical stores. Language models are mostly just kind of a wall of text, but we all sort of understand what the end game is, right? You go to a store, you talk to an associate, you walk with that associate, they show you products, and you are able to make decisions based on what that conversation tells you. And so this is the end game of conversation. Right here, you're looking around it, right? The G in GPU stands for graphics. And so as AI gets better, the graphics get better, and the ability to represent information gets better. So we're digitizing all the world's products so that we can bring the store to wherever people are. So there's roughly 6 billion phones in everyone's pockets, and this enables people free real estate to be able to serve a higher converting experience. And we own both the app layer which is a representation of a shelf, and also the AI infrastructure to be able to bring all those world's products into 3 dimensions so you can experience them, hold them, try them on, whatever you would do with those 3D shapes.
Nice, thanks. John, going on to you. Yeah, let's just get a little bit deeper dive into what Pipe 17 does.
Yeah. I will say that like the Amazon feature, where you like look at the item in your house does really help. I guess that's sort of similar, right? On the 3D side?
Yes, yeah, we could power that. So we're 100,000 times more cost effective than their internal team, which is actually,
Wow, just sort of
if
shade
anyone
out
from
there.
Amazon is here and would like to save money, it's all done by hand. So it's no different from 150 years ago when the pictures were all drawn by hand. Can you say that it can be consistent across 400 million products? So according to the GTM of spatial at Amazon, there's no army on the planet that would be able to reproduce all 400 million products for Amazon. So only AI can do that. And so we help businesses like Amazon to potentially scale to all of their products so you can see that feature for every single one.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Now it's interesting or cool. But on the Pipe 17 side, we typically work with a brand. A lot of brands starts from like, they're selling out of the garage. They have sort of hit product. They're scaling up. They're like, you can maybe do like, I don't know, 100, 200 orders a day. Then you start, you have so much goods coming in, coming out. They start looking for a warehouse. Then you get to a little bit bigger. You need 2 warehouses because next day shipping is the name of the game. And then you continue to expand. So you need sort of like a system because e-commerce is ever changing to help you figure out where you should route these orders. One thing we typically see is brands start selling on Shopify. They sell on Amazon. They have 100 shirts. They don't have 200 shirts. That's both showing on Shopify and Amazon. So once one order comes in, you decrement inventory from the other side. You sort of bundling. You get really doing like what 25 million GMV. You start thinking about like, hey, I need to automate this. I have a CFO now. I need to control P&L. I need to bring an ERP system. But all of this requires connectivity to get all of these things working. So we provide this order management system that power these brands to handle all of this. And if they need like another 3PL, they just kind of plug into our system. They don't need to rework their whole integration layer where they switch ERPs, they start selling other selling channels. It just plugs right in. And on the flip side, we power the logistic company because all the time the customer comes in like, yeah, your warehouse looks great. How do I connect? Like, I sell on Etsy, I sell on Wayfair, I sell on like, random selling website, TikTok Shop, which we recently support. They need a way to connect into the warehouse and you get inventory, product, all of that flowing. So we power the logistics out of this. So that's, in a nutshell, what Pipe 17 does.
Nice, thank you. So now that we have a context of what both of you do, I'd like to kind of more broaden the conversation to a little bit more general, but what are some of the problems that you think brands are facing today or retailers are facing today? Like what are some of the biggest problems out there that you think either your technology or just tech in general can help solve for them?
Again, yeah. So I think in this day and age, you do want to meet where the customers are. So that's why TikTok Shop has been such a big hit. There's a lot of brands that are doing insane amount of volume. Actually, I don't know if you guys saw it, but there's like this, what is like the Ozempic, like GLP-1? Yeah. There's a GLP-1 patch on TikTok Shop that's just selling, like they're selling thousands of them every single day. It's just nuts because once you have this like flywheel with influencer driven and it's you have such a good targeting machine of people who might be interested, like it's amazing. Like brands or like even business are getting built overnight through these platforms. Jason mentioned agentic shopping. Like people have started to shop on Perplexity, ask ChatGPT. Just the other day, I was buying a bike for my kid. Like I didn't go through pages and pages of research. I pull up ChatGPT. Hey, I have a 6-year-old kid. What bike should I look at? And they give me a bunch of options. They search the web, and then I just have to go to that website and press click. So that whole that entire like buying experience is changing. So I think the brands have to in a way prepare for that and for that that future.
Yeah, so depending on what generation you're from, you either grew up with a push or pull type internet. So push is like TVs and TikTok. Pull is like Google and command line. So we're seeing a change in both, right? With agentic. So in the pull side, LLMs are not returning the same amount of clicks as you would via SEO. So people are being retained in the conversation of that chat. They're not leaving to the individual websites that you might want to be the destination. On the push side, nearly half the videos that I see on YouTube or on like a Reels type scenario are generated, right? Even TikTok has tools to create virtual influencers that's not a real person. And so more and more, your brand is being exposed through APIs. And I actually sat down with a lot of retailers. A lot of them don't even know what an MCP is. So an MCP is the API or SaaS of the language model generation. It is how information flows back and forth. And so if you want your products to be seen or talked about, or information about those products to be viewed in these videos or in the output of these language models, you would probably want to expose an MCP so you can be found. And so we're in the midst of a huge platform shift where the internet is becoming effectively the dark web, and the new internet is these language models. And if you're not part of these platform shifts, you might go the way of, say, a Walmart where your sales volume has been overtaken by an Amazon, right? And so there's a lot of people that couldn't take advantage of the last platform shift. Radio Shack, Bed Bath & Beyond, malls in general. So unless you're like Cheesecake Factory or an Apple store, you probably have been affected by these platform shifts. So yeah, I think that's something to be aware of, like knowing what an MCP is like Bill Gates having access to an Altair right now.
Yeah, definitely interesting points on both sides there. I want to chime in as well too. I think brands are notorious for being more reactive when it comes to technology shifts. In defense of brands as well, though, is that most brands, unless you're like the largest, biggest brands, like you're probably operating under resourced, and so you have plenty of other things that you need to be doing, and you want to be optimizing your stores and optimizing your sales and optimizing everything else. But I do think it's really important for all brands to just really start thinking about this. Doesn't mean that you have to act on it immediately. I don't think it's so dire that you have to make an action now, but you do have to have a plan and a thought process and a strategy so that you are able to act on these things. So whether that means you have one person in the organization that's dedicated to learning these LLM models or just learning how to use these tools, I think that becomes ultra important overall. So great. When you all think about how the conversations that you have with brands, like you were mentioning that brands didn't know what the MCP was and so forth, and what are some other things that you think brands need to be aware of or learning or exposing their employees to, et cetera? I was just at a vibe coding event yesterday, and the gentleman was talking about how he sees a future in technology where you essentially have like product leaders that essentially run agents and are more serving. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense, as to why you might do that. So you might have, instead of 20 product managers, you might have one product manager that is facilitating agents. Let's kind of brainstorm a little bit here. Like, what do you think something like that could look like in a brand context of how brands would leverage agents or AI to become more effective and more efficient in their workflow?
I've seen a definitely increase in personalization. Before it used to be, hey, have like A/B testing, then I have like maybe categories. Now I've seen brands that are really sophisticated thinking about like, hey, how do I tailor to the person tailoring my messaging, changing my text on the fly, changing my images. How do I do this level of personalization on my website to, essentially like help with the conversion rate, right? I think there's enough push for all companies to leverage ChatGPT, Cloud, all the AI tools, but it's still hard, I think, to push a traditional company to go through that conversion. I mean, maybe the company that started within like the last 12 months are very like AI forward, but think about companies that are that's been like around 4 or 5 years. Like going through that transformation is still quite hard. I don't know, like that's one thing we talk to brands, like not just for our service, but when we discuss with them how they should think about it, how they should push, share some of our experiences on how do we push AI through our everyone within Pipe 17 to leverage it and help them sort of discuss that as well.
Yeah, I think that the number of touch points that a brand might want to be able to reach a customer in their journey is actually bifurcating, and that at the opposite end of the spectrum, it's harder and harder to represent that level of authenticity, just because now you have different groups of people that have different sensibilities, and what is authentic to one group is inauthentic to another. So, for example, those that grew up around Generation X all remember QVC and MTV. So we only had one channel to really think about, and it was one style of authenticity. And now there is you have Reels, you have Blue Sky, you have Threads, you have so many other channels these days to be able to reach customers, and no one customer has the same set of channels to have that same level of consistency of reach for any singular brand. But it does pay off. So folks that I think like Stanley Cup, which is a local Seattle company, was able to go viral after a car burnt down and went viral on TikTok when the ice was still fresh and not melted. So I think that for authenticity, you have to be able to scale either to reach certain types of people who know how to communicate authentically with those folks, or be able to emulate that style for your own brand. And so you feel authentic to different groups of people. And I think that the only way to really keep up with that is by having agentic processes, because you can only hire so many people and they can only do so many things. But if you have folks learning low code, no code, or any types of tools, I think that this will be as critical in terms of computer literacy as any type of Excel use case, right? So I think that being familiar with these tools helps become a force multiplier for your workforce, and helps you reach more people in the channels that they prefer to receive information in the way that they prefer to receive information.
Excellent. Thank you. So before we go to our next panel, I want to open up the floor if anybody has a question that they'd like to ask. Anybody? Cool. Yeah, would you mind coming up to this mic so we can hear your question?
Now I'm starting to think about what is my question actually. I guess more for the 3D space here, because I think that's so interesting. Like, how do we make it more experiential? How do we bring that live showroom experience kind of to you? There's a lot of players in the space. Like we work with Meshi AI a lot to generate 3D props. You can upload a couple images. It can more or less create some monstrosity of what you're trying to create. I guess, in one way, how are you approaching the unique job to be done, right? These are products. It's got to look right. There's variance, there's small, medium, large of that pair of pants. Or I want to know, does it fit my foot? There's just some more spatial, there's space for more engagement, I think, like you're hinting at. How do you all think about this? Specifically, again, this job to be done of commerce, retail, and just that fidelity and dynamic requirements.
Yeah, so the job to be done is accuracy. If it doesn't look like the product, then the job is not done. Meshi cannot produce real things, and it's innate in its architecture. Like the way it works is that it will kind of Frankenstein monster different parts of 3D elements, mostly from video games, and puts it on a chart, right? You can say, okay, like feet go here, right? Arms go here, heads go here, and then it will take the photo that you want to reproduce, and it will just kind of mix and match and place it into a shape that is the closest it could find. So it's kind of like a search. The problem with that is that that's not how you build real things, right? You have industrial design language, right? A BMW is a BMW because it looks like a BMW. How do you explain that to an AI? Especially if they're only looking at the similarity of shapes and logos, right? So, and how do you know what is a logo? So our process is more like low code. The software that runs our planes and trains and the things we rely on is deterministic. The video games run the same way and show the same way every single time. Our cameras are deterministic, right? When you take a photo, you actually don't see what hits the processor. There's an AI pass and says, okay, these are clouds, and this is what a cloud should probably look like. It should be this level of blue, and because it hits that level of blue, you buy it, right? But if it said, oh, it looks like Van Gogh, then you're like, that's not the photo that I took. So we have a completely different architecture in terms of how we approach realism that's much closer to traditional photography than what architectures people are trying to brute force. And I think that no amount of energy and optimization with these approaches is going to resolve a good answer anytime soon. And in that time, we'll be monetizing their customers in the real world space. And video games are not a bad space to start at, right? It's a $1 trillion industry. But if you think that as how Jensen Huang thinks about the entirety of physical AI, it leaves open this entirely blue ocean of supply chain and authentication and robotics and the ability to interact with the most valuable thing in the room, which is a product, on the table. So they're leaving money on the table by using the wrong architectures. And it leaves a blue ocean for companies like Curie to be able to advantage of, being able to help automate the entire process. Like, for example, more and more of our systems are being delivered by, or products are being delivered by drone. And so you have to take it outside of its packaging, meaning that you have to remove the barcode, meaning that's invisible to computers now. And so how do you Tetris your way into fitting all the products in a box if now you don't know what the product looks like? And so by simulating those digital twins, kind of like Tetris in the drone, before you take it outside the box, you can make sure that you're able to automate that entire process of fulfillment. So I think that it's going to be more and more important for companies to hit that level of realism in order for the job to be done in all sorts of interactions and touch points with products. And by solving that problem, you're able to now automate it.
Nice. Any last questions? All right. Real quick, what are some ways that folks can either get in touch with you or stay in contact with you?
Pipe17.com. Come check us out.
Yeah, my email is michael@curie.co, and I'm also very highly networked on LinkedIn.
Perfect. Awesome. Let's give our speakers a round of applause, please. Thank you.